Hey fellas, welcome to part 3 of Airfix's 124 scale P-51D build. In this exciting episode, I throw some paint on it, and it's looking so much better than I ever thought it would. It's a 5-footer. From 5 foot away, it looks pretty good. I think it looks really good from 5 foot away. But once you get up close, I mean, you can see, some of the issues that it has, and there's some things that just they don't seem straight to me. So I don't know. It's something I didn't really notice. Like the tail doesn't look perfect. But anyway, I get some paint on it. I was hoping to have it done by now, and but I ordered decals. I'm doing Creamer's Dream from the Red Tails, and I ordered decals, and they just shipped yesterday. At least they said they shipped. I don't even know if they did. So I'll probably get those sometime next week, and then I can finish this thing up. But I show you how I paint some stuff. I don't go, it's only a 30-minute video, so I don't go real in depth, but I do show show how I paint it and do the natural metal finish and paint some stuff. But there we go. I'm pretty happy with it so far. Then once I get decals on it, then I can do some more weathering and stuff. But I think it's looking pretty cool. All right, let's get on with the video. All right, fellas, now I skipped ahead, way ahead, and you can see I'm in the process of masking off the wings. Now, after I primed it, again, after I corrected all my mistakes and primed it, I added some rivet detail for these larger, they're not necessarily rivets, I think they're called Zeus fasteners. They look like screws. I used, where's my little thing here? This deal, and I actually forgot what this is called, some kind of a punch. I don't know if it's a leather punch or I'm not sure, but I used this thing and picked out one that I thought was an appropriate size and made those bigger Zeus fasteners along the front, and I think those turned out really, really good. Now, obviously, I don't have the little the straight line through the middle like it was an actual screw, but I think it from a distance it looks pretty good. For the other rivets, what I used was my Rosie the Riveter tool, and I used a diagram online to show where all the rivet lines were, and I tried to get pretty close to that. It's not 100% accurate, but I got it pretty close. Now, after that, I put a gloss coat on it, and I'm not real concerned about being real glossy. Normally, for like shiny metal, I'll use Mr. Color GX2, and you can get a really nice gloss finish. I wasn't too concerned about it because I'm going to weather this, and it's not going to be quite as shiny. At least the intent is it's not supposed to be quite as shiny. But for the wing area, it's my understanding they used like aluminum paint mixed with lacquer and sprayed that. I think it was called high-speed silver. I didn't have any high-speed silver, so what I came up with was this white aluminum from AK Extreme Metal, and this will just it's kind of I don't know, it's going to be a lot different than hopefully than the actual aluminum that I'm going to use to spray on the rest of the plane. So at least it'll differentiate this and somewhat mimic the high-speed silver. I know there are probably better options out there, but I didn't feel like buying any of those high-speed silver paint, so I just used this. But anyway, I'm masking off this this wing area, and I'm going to spray the rest of it with the regular aluminum, and then I'll probably come over with some different shades and do like a mottling, M-O-T-T-L-I-N-G, some modeling with some darker aluminums, maybe some smoke colors, and then change up some panel lines, some panels. So I'm going to get this masked up. I'm going to spray this with the regular aluminum, and then we'll come back, and if I got anything interesting with what I'm going to do with the rest of it, then I'll cut out and we'll show some of that stuff. All right, fellas, let's take a look at what we got going on. So I've sprayed the fuselage with AK Extreme Metal aluminum, and then I took this dark aluminum, which is a couple shades darker than the regular aluminum, but it's not real drastic. And inside all these riveted areas, I sprayed, did some like post shading with the dark aluminum. And you can see how it breaks up just, you know, if I'd had this just straight aluminum, it's just, you know, one straight color. And with that dark aluminum inside of those areas, as the post shading, it gives it more of a natural look, in my opinion. But that's pretty much how I do most of my aluminum finishes. And it's not real drastic, but I think it looks pretty cool. Now, for this area up here along the engine cowl, what I did is I used this steel color and then some duraluminum, and I just kind of sprayed it trying to match up with some pictures, and it's just a little bit darker. Some of these panels I had sprayed, and especially right along here where I had really sanded this away. I mean, there's still some, it's still raised a little bit, but I really want to differentiate that from the rest of the fuselage. So I went ahead and sprayed that with some dark aluminum there, and then right along the back. And rather than having to scribe that in, it is kind of a soft raised detail with all my sanding. It really brings that out, and I think it makes a difference. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to, since I am doing some chipping and some little bit heavier weathering, and you know, just trying to make it look used. It's my understanding the putty and stuff would flake off, and although I'm not going to have any rivet details showing through, I do want to kind of break up some of this high-speed silver finish to make it look like it's kind of worn and some of it's coming off. It would probably look better if I had like rivet detail underneath, but you know, like some of the putty had broken off. You know, again, it's probably not realistic, but it's going to make it look, you know, worn, and I think it's going to give it kind of a cool type look to it. So how I'm doing this to make this chipping on the wing, I'm going to take some tape, and you can see I've already started doing some chipping, and it's really, I guess it's really not chipping. It looks like the paint's flaking off or getting worn off. I've already started doing that here along where they would walk along the wing, and then right along these panels where, you know, they would have been, you know, pulling them off and getting in there. But I'll show you how I'm doing this. Is I'm just going to take some tape, and I'm going to create some of this worn area right along here, just a bit. I'm not going to do too much. I'm just going to take my tape. I'm going to come along this panel line. And just to demonstrate here, but I'm not going to do a whole lot. I'll take some more tape. Put it here, and then I'll take some of my what is this, Mr. Hobby, it's a Mr. Masking Solution. Now I've got some Micro Scale Industries masking solution, but I think it's a little harsher than this stuff. I think this is pretty weak stuff, and it shouldn't harm the paint. Now after I had sprayed all this aluminum, I did use some, let me grab it here. I sealed my work in with Alclad Aqua Gloss, and it didn't seem to affect I mean, it does a little bit, but it doesn't affect the sheen of the aluminum finish as much as some other clear coats. And the reason I do that is because even though this extreme metal aluminum is pretty durable, it's still not as durable as like a normal paint. And you know, sometimes it'll leave tape marks, especially if you don't wait long enough for it to dry. And I did have some of those issues on the white aluminum on the wings, because I don't think I let it dry long enough. So I just went ahead and clear coated everything. So this does have aqua gloss on top, and this stuff doesn't really affect the aqua gloss as long as it's dry. So I'm just taking a sponge, and I'm going to come along here, and I'm just going to sponge some of this masking fluid on. Get some more on here. And I think this is one of those things where, I mean, you can go overboard on it if you do it like too much, but if you just do it in some spots, I think it gives kind of a cool effect. I got a little hair in there. Part of my beard fell in. Right there, got a little beard hair in my plane. Okay. I'm gonna let this set up. I'm probably gonna do the other couple places on the other side as well. And then we'll spray some dark aluminum on there and I'll show you what it looks like. Well, obviously you can see here, but we'll go through it and I'll show you how it's done. Now you really wanna let this masking solution dry. It's been sitting for about 20 minutes or so and it's pretty dry. And I've went ahead and I've masked off. You can see I've made some dams with just bending the tape up. That way I don't have to mask off the whole wing because it's metallic. It is easy to get overspray on everything. And you know, if you just mask off this area, you're gonna get a line, no matter how hard you try not to, you're gonna get a line on your wings. So instead of just masking off everything, just make a little dam like this. And that way you won't get overspray. So I've got some AK Extreme Metal dark aluminum. This stuff right here, and I've got my airbrush. Now I've got this set to about 10 psi, and that way I'm not blasting it on. And this is my Awada HPCS. It's a 3.5 millimeter nozzle. Now if you use a smaller needle and nozzle, then you're probably going to need to up your psi because this does still have metal flake in it. And I'm just going to go along and spray these areas right along this panel line here. And it's kind of hard to tell because I put this masking solution on so thin. It's kind of hard to tell where it is and where it isn't. But when we lift it up, it's going to be pretty noticeable. So I'm just going to go right along this panel line here, building that up. Just like so. Then you can come in here with different colors as well. Like on this right here, I don't know if the camera's gonna pick it up, but I used a couple different colors. I sprayed the dark aluminum and then I sprayed some regular aluminum around it, and it gives it a really cool effect. I don't know if the camera's gonna pick it up like I said, but in person it really does look pretty cool. So I'm gonna let this dry and then we'll rip all of our masking off. I can probably rip my masking off now. And sometimes this will lift some of this masking solution up. But the stuff that it doesn't rip up, we'll get with tape, and I'll show you how that's done. You can see some of it's coming up as it is. And because I have this aqua gloss on here, it's not ripping up any of the underlying metallic finish, and it's not leaving any marks either. So, and I sprayed this probably a couple days ago, so it's good and dry. The aqua gloss, that is. But you really do have to be careful with this metallic finish, even with the extreme metal stuff. I've heard Alclad is even worse. I've got some Alclads. I just don't use them that often just because I like the AK stuff better. It just seems more durable to me. So I'm going to let this dry a little bit, and it shouldn't take too long, and then we'll come back and we'll rip the rest of it off with tape. Okay, so I've got some really sticky tape here, and I'm just going to put this on here and then just start peeling that up. You can see that comes off, and it leaves our chipping Now some of this stuff is stuck in the panel line, it looks like. And it gives us this nice, cool looking chipping effect. I really like this method. And then any stuff that gets stuck in the panel line, you can just take a toothpick. And I like to sharpen it, and then I can get in there and get some of this goop out of the panel line. Like so. There's a bubble there. And some of this, when it's really thin like this, it is kind of hard to get up sometimes. You just got to keep working at it. And you can see I'm not real concerned if it does lift some of that metallic finish off. It just gives it a little extra chipping look to it. And I'm putting it on there pretty hard and just ripping it up. And now I've got just a little bit of chipping here. And it looks like some of that high-speed silver's wearing off in some areas. And that's what it looks like, fellas. All right, this is a little tip for guys that are just getting back into the hobby. Now, the plane that I'm modeling has these little flaps here. They're going to be painted in white, and I forgot before I painted these to mask these off. So I want to paint these white. Now, when you're airbrushing white over a darker color, it's going to take a lot of coats. I'm going to build up a lot of paint trying to get that white if I just spray white over it. So a little tip that I've picked up over the years is to spray down a metallic color. So I've got some AK aluminum here, and I'm going to spray that down. It sprays real thin, but it has really good coverage. So it's going to cover that red really quick without laying down a bunch of coats. And then I can spray my white over top of that. So I've got a couple airbrushes here, and I got some AK aluminum in my airbrush, and we're going to spray some of this aluminum down, and you're going to see how quickly this covers that red. Just like so. And that's a really thin coat right there. Now I'm using this Harder and Steamback Evolution airbrush, and I like this. I kind of like this. It's really touchy. It's like the BMW of airbrushes, and so I'm just trying to get used to it. Look how quickly that covers. Now, if I'd have just sprayed white over top of that, it would take me a long time. And I've got my camera kind of close here, but I think we'll be okay. Okay, now I'm going to pull out my white. Now I'm just using Tamiya XF2 flat white. And I've got this thinned to about 30% paint, 70% thinner. So it's not like I've got a real heavy thick white. So this is fairly thin because I want to keep my coats as thin as I can with still covering. And that's all it takes right there, fellas. Now, you might not be able to tell much of a difference on the camera between the white and the aluminum, but in person, it's definitely white and not aluminum. All right. So you get the idea. Look at that. Okay, so hopefully that helps some of you newer guys out with if you're having issues with covering up darker colors with white paint. And there you go. All right, fellas, so what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna paint these star and bar insignias, and I typically like to paint these because they're pretty easy to do. Now, I have a Cricut, and I've shown what a Cricut is and how to use it. It's basically a vinyl cutter that, you know, hooks up to my computer, and I can cut out vinyl for t-shirts. I can also use it for making masks for my models. There's other things out there called the Silhouette, but I'll leave a link in the description for that video. It's an older video, but it shows you how I use it. Now, what I typically like for my masking materials is Tamiya sticker sheet. I got these off Amazon. There's 5 in a pack, and I think it was like $6 or $7. And you know, they're I don't know what the size is, but it's smaller than a sheet of notebook paper. But so that's what I like to use. It's basically Tamiya tape in a big sheet. So on my Cricut, I have the image of the stars and bars downloaded. And what I typically like to do first is I will cut out just a silhouette without any of the star cut or any of the other cuts on the inside. I'll cut out these silhouettes that are the exact same size as the star and bars, and I use those to align where I actually want the star and bar to look, or to be on the plane. Because if I just try to use the outside stencil, it's kind of hard to get it lined up. Now, if you'll notice, on all my pieces, I will have an up arrow. It should be the same, but I'm not sure if it is, the top and the bottom. At least the picture that I got, the image that I have, it may not be exactly the same, so I just always mark them just in case. Now, Cricut has this transfer tape, and it's basically just a clear tape. It's not quite as sticky as regular, like, shipping tape, but it does the trick. So what I'll do is I've aligned all my star and bar insignias, the silhouettes. Now I'm going to take the outside piece, I'm going to put it on my transfer tape, just like so. Try not to bend it. And it's always nice just to make a couple extra in case you screw up and you don't have to go back and print them again. So I will just peel the backing off, and then I can come up, make sure my arrows are pointing in the same direction. And then I'll just come in here and lay down the outside mask. And I use the same technique when I do lettering. The only issue I found with this is it sometimes stretches in the process. Using the transfer tape, it cuts down on stretching it. And so they don't always align exactly perfectly. But if you're careful, you can get them to line pretty well. Okay. Now I'll just peel my transfer tape up. Put that on there. And then I will get a set of tweezers, and then I will pull the silhouette up. Okay. Don't really need that anymore. Make sure everything's burnished down, and then I can use some more tape to mask around so I don't get paint or overspray anywhere. Make sure this is burnished down here along this raised detail. And then I will start off painting with white. So I'll lay down all my white where each of the logos is going to go here, and then on the sides, and then on the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and spray that off camera, just lay down some Tamiya XF2 flat white, and then we'll come back and we'll put the rest of the masking on and paint the dark blue. All right, now that I've got the white laid down and it's had time to dry, now I'm going to put the mask on for the actual white part of the star and the bar. So you can see I've got that on this piece of transfer tape. And it's just going to be a matter of lining it up. Sometimes it just gets a little difficult, tricky to do. Okay. I think that's about as close as I'm going to get it. This one didn't seem to line up as well as the others, but it'll be okay. Now, once that's on, I'm going to lift up the part that's going to be blue, which is a surrounding mask. Let's pull this up. All right. Now I can spray my blue. Now I had somebody ask me not too long ago about what to use for the blue. Now, Tamiya, I use Tamiya paint, so whatever paint you use, you may have a color for it, but there's Royal Blue, which is X3, but it's a little too blue. What I've done in the past is I've darkened it up with black. But then again, I've also got XF17, which is Sea Blue, and it's kind of a little too black-green. And I found if I mix these two together, I get a pretty good color, at least pretty close, rather than using black. I've got this mixed with X3 and XF17 at a 2-to-1 ratio, 2X3 to 117. And I think this will be pretty good. Now, when I spray this, if I want to fade it, I can spray it a little bit lighter in some areas, or I can just, if I want the whole thing faded, I can just spray the whole thing lighter. If I want it more opaque, like a newer star and bar painting on a plane, then I can paint it really opaque. I can also come back after I paint it if I want to shade it afterwards, then I can take some really diluted white and then start fading it, or I can fade it with some oil paint later on. So I don't know. I'm going to see what I like. I'll probably fade it a little bit here on top and then not fade it too much on the bottom. And then on the sides, I like to fade a little bit more on the upper part of the insignia and then darken it down here. I just think it looks cool. And I will paint these and then we'll come back and we'll lift up the mask and take a look at it. All right, let's peel this up. And I sprayed it a little bit lighter on top. I probably could have went a little bit more. So I may do some, I'll probably do some more weathering to this. I may use a colored pencil, like a white pencil, and make some chips in it and do some fading with some oil paint. We'll see when I get there. But peel this up and let's watch the magic happen. And then I can also use some, maybe some gray paint or some silver paint or something and do some chipping around the edge of this gun bay door as well. But I really like this a lot better than messing with the big decals on something like this, because it's always, no matter how thin they are, I can never get them to lay down well. And painting them on isn't that big of a deal, especially if you have a Cricut, and they look so much better. So there we go. I'm going to try to find the numbers that go on the side here. There's a 42, but it's in a really weird font. I found some on thefont.com that are pretty close, but not exactly how the Creamer's Dream, I don't know if I mentioned that, but I'm doing the Creamer's Dream of the red tails. Ooh, I got some overspray here. Oh my gosh, fellas. Oh well, it's fine. Okay, I got some overspray here. What I'm going to try to do now, I have coated this with aqua gloss. So this may hurt the aqua gloss, but I've got some airbrush thinner from Vallejo, and it will remove Tamiya paint, and hopefully it will probably remove the aqua gloss as well. But if I go over it really quick, I'll probably be able to get rid of that. All right, so I got the overspray going. It didn't seem to, I'm sure if I rubbed on it long enough or got it really wet, it would remove the aqua gloss, but it doesn't look like it affected it, so. Awesome. All right, fellas, as you can see, I've got the numbers painted on. They're not 100% like the decals that I ordered, but it's really close. You wouldn't be able to tell unless you held them up side by side. I've got everything coated in aqua gloss. I went ahead and hand painted the exhaust stack there. Got that taken care of. So I am ready for decals, or decals as my friends overseas like to call them. I think people in Canada even call them decals. I don't know. Yellow Cake will tell me whether or not they're decals or decals. I think he calls them decals. Anyway, so there we go, fellas. I'll probably work on the painting the base while I'm waiting for the decals, and otherwise, you know, not much else I can do until I get those. But I am really happy with this son of a gun. I did not expect it to turn out even close to this well. You know, it's a, like I think I mentioned this before, it's a 5-footer. I mean, upon real close inspection, you can see some flaws, but and like this tail, the tail just seems off to me. The hole for the little antenna thing, it was over, and it made it look really weird. So I went ahead and filled it in and then repainted it. And I'm gonna have to drill another hole, but I don't know, something was just off right there. I don't know what it was. But yeah, there we go. I will, hopefully I will get decals early next week and get this all finished up and do some weathering, and then we can see the final episode sometime, hopefully by next weekend or so. All right, thanks for watching, fellas.